All right, well, let's get started. It's about 4 minutes after. I'm sure people will filter in, but to keep us on time, we'll get going here. So first of all, on behalf of AWS and Theobald Software, I want to welcome everyone to our webinar today, Streamlining SAP Data Integration with AWS. Just quickly, your presenters for today. Just want to introduce myself quickly and as well as our speakers, and I'll let them give a little bit of background when I turn the slides over to them. I'm Scott Pattinson, I work for Theobald Software, and I am the ISV and OEM Partnerships Manager. I've been with Theobald about a year and a half now. I'm located in Seattle. Joining us today, Pavel Masarovic. Pavel is a principal solution architect with AWS. In particular, he is the SAP Innovation Architect focused on EMEA. We work with Pavel globally, but he is focused on EMEA and he's located in EMEA. And as well, Christoph Schuler. Christoph works for Theobald as well. Christoph's our general manager. He is located in Seattle, as am I. Christoph, in addition to managing our U.S. subsidiary, also is very involved in our product and our solution portfolio. So today's topics, a couple things. First of all, a little bit about Theobald Software and AWS and our partnership. We'll talk about that just briefly. I'll turn it over to Christoph. Christoph's going to talk about our solution, our our flagship solution, which is Xtract Universal, or XU to us. Following that, he's going to demo XU, and he's going to extract some SAP data into, in this case, our destination is S3. He'll run through that, and following that, we'll give you some quick insight into our portfolio and our roadmap as well. At that point, we'll turn over to Pavel. Pavel's going to talk about managing SAP data with AWS services. So we'll show you how to extract data efficiently and securely into S3, as I said, in this case. And then Pavel's going to show what you can do, at least in part, with the multitude of AWS services and how you can manipulate and view your SAP data in AWS. Following that, he's going to demo. He's going to actually show how you pick up your data from S3 in this case and manage it in AWS and view the data. Okay, so quick overview Theobald. We're going to assume that most of you are familiar, at least at a high level, with AWS, Theobald Software. We were founded just over 20 years ago in Stuttgart, Germany. That is our headquarters. We are an independent software vendor or an ISV, and we specialize in SAP data extraction and SAP integration. We are not a consultancy. We get that question a lot. We focus on SAP and SAP software solutions. About 60 employees, the majority in Stuttgart. We have about eight folks in Seattle managing our US business. We have about 1,700 active customers, closer to 1,800 probably now. And we have about 250 partners of various types that we work with, including AWS, obviously. We are an ISV Accelerate or ISV A partner with AWS. We are also a partner of SAP. We are in the SAP Partner Program. I should also mention that our foundational technology, which underpins all of our solutions, is SAP certified. That's a little bit about Theobald Software. Theobald Software and AWS, better together, as we like to say. So we share a large number of customers that use SAP, that use our solutions to manage their SAP data, and obviously host their compute, storage, and leverage all of the AWS services that are together. So this is just a small sample. We wanted to give you a sense of the customers that we share together and use our solutions jointly. And then just to dig into a little bit, I'm going to highlight one of the 12 that's on here, Melody Automotive. So one of the questions that we get a lot of, well, what do your customers do with your solutions, and what do they do with AWS? And we think that Melody Automotive is a good example of a customer that had a very specific use case, a specific business problem, and they used the combination of our Xtract Universal software and AWS to solve that problem. So just to give you a flavor for this, maybe Christoph, you could talk a little bit about Melody Automotive and the challenge they faced and how they used our solution in AWS to address those issues.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a great customer example because they faced a very typical challenge. So they were faced with unreliable data extractions, poor performance. That's something actually we hear quite commonly from customers. And with our solution, they were able to automate their data extractions and improve the data extraction benchmarks and performance by 80%. That is a substantial improvement over what they had before. And they had a very typical SAP environment, also SAP ECC with AWS S3 and QuickSight as a destination. And I think the other thing to highlight here is that deploying our solution only took them days. So they didn't have to spend weeks or months to configure, to set up the solution, to get it ready to replicate data into AWS. It took them days, and that's another big advantage of I think, our solution.
Great. Thanks, Christoph. So just a couple things quick. One, I'm going to put up a poll in a minute, but before I do that to the audience, I just want to reassure you that any questions that you have, feel free to use the Q&A box in the webinar if you'd like. We have saved time or allocated time at the end to take some of these questions, and I'll be moderating and looking at those questions. If it's something we can answer in line and that's relevant to a specific topic or conversation that Pavel and Christoph are talking about, we'll try and answer in line. So I just want to encourage you, if you have questions, please use the Q&A box, and I'll be monitoring and picking those up. So the first thing we want to do here, though, for the audience is we want to get a sense of your own use of SAP, whether you're a prospective SAP customer, existing customer, and your use of, your use of SAP today in extracting data. So question one, if you'll see in the chat window there, you should pop up a question. And what we're curious about, are you extracting data from SAP today? And if you are, which solution do you use? All right, good. We've got a few answers here. Okay, so interesting. So about 20% each, other ISV solutions. One respondent using DataSphere, and not to our surprise, not extracting SAP today to any other platform than SAP, but BW. So this is fairly common, I think, Christoph, to what we hear from customers, particularly those who are interested in looking at our solutions. All right, good. Thank you for that, everyone. Let's move on here. And I will turn this over to Christoph to talk a little bit about our Xtract Universal solution.
Good. Let's take a closer look at the solution for extracting SAP data and replicating that data to AWS. The solution is called Xtract Universal, and I'll just highlight a few key aspects of the solution and how it is helping customers. First, the solution is compatible with all common SAP applications. You see some of them listed here. We're compatible with SAP ECC, S/4HANA in different deployment models, on-premise, in the cloud, both public and private cloud. We're also compatible with Grow environments for those of you who use the S4 public SAP environment, but also BW for HANA, APO, other applications in different releases, in different deployment modes. The other thing you'll see here on this slide in the middle is the number of extraction components that the tool offers. There's currently 12 different extraction types for all kinds of use cases, for all kinds of different SAP sources. So regardless of where your data is stored or in what shape or form it is in the SAP system, we will likely have a way, an efficient way to get to that data using one of our components. Collectively, these components also provide a good alternative to SAP Note, the note that is listed here, also known as the ODP note. As some of you may have heard, SAP has restricted access to the ODP framework, the operational data provisioning framework in SAP, over the RFC protocol. You can still access that framework over the OData protocol, which is something we have added in our tool set. But all these other components, starting with table CDC, function module, report, are not impacted by the ODP node. So we offer great alternatives for customers to stay within the guidelines and compliance with SAP. So together, these components offer both full replication capabilities, but also Delta or change data capture replication capabilities to AWS. And I will show this to you in the demo in a moment. Again, going back to our customer spotlight, I think having both capabilities is really important to achieve both near real-time or real-time replication, but also high performant throughput of your SAP data into the destination. A lot of customers also ask about licensing. One thing to know that's important is when you access your SAP ERP system, whether it's ECC or S/4HANA, there is no additional licensing requirement to access your SAP data. Sometimes there's some confusion around that, but that is the guidance and follows the license recommendations from SAP. Now, we're also compatible with many of the AWS services. I'll show you in a demo in a moment how we replicate data to Amazon S3, the object store. We can also send data directly into a Redshift database, and we are working on a Glue integration so you can automate your jobs, your processing jobs, and orchestrate them using AWS Glue. We're in the marketplace. The link is shown here. If you search for Xtract Universal or Theobald software, you will find us on the AWS Marketplace. We have a ready-to-use, ready-to-deploy AMI, a machine image for customers that allows you to deploy the image within minutes. And last but not least, as Scott previously mentioned, the tool is built on an SAP certified technology foundation. That foundation is called ERP Connect, and that is both certified for SAP ECC as well as for S/4HANA. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. This is the AWS reference architecture diagram. It shows our solution in the context of AWS services. And if we start in the middle here, where you see our logo, this is where the customer, the AWS customer, would host an EC2 instance. This is a Windows EC2 instance with our tool installed. The quickest way to deploy this is through our marketplace listing. That's a pre-built AMI that you can easily deploy in the EC2 environment. Over on the left, you see how we connect to the customer's SAP environment. We primarily do this over two protocols, RFC, and we have added OData recently, primarily for S/4HANA environments. So here you see all the different objects across the various releases and deployments modes that customers may have for their SAP system. Then over on the right, you see that once the data is extracted from the SAP system, we send it directly into one of several AWS services. This could be Amazon S3, this could be Amazon Redshift. We're also compatible with various databases under the Amazon RDS service. We also integrate with SAP DataSphere. So if you're a customer who is running SAP DataSphere or BDC in the AWS environment, we can also send data directly to DataSphere. And last but not least, we also work well with other AWS services, the ones you see at the bottom here. We integrate with IAM for authentication, Glue for process automation or orchestration, CloudWatch, you can use that to monitor the data extracts, and also SNS for notifications. Okay, so now I will share my screen and walk you through a demonstration of the tool. Okay, am I sharing? Not quite. 1 second.
Not quite. There you go.
All right. So here you see our tool, Xtract Universal. It's an easy to deploy, easy to use tool. What you see here on my screen is the designer, the front end or user interface, which you can use to design your data extractions. In this table in the middle, every row here represents a data extract from one of the SAP systems that I'm connected to. You can organize these into folders. You see them here on the left. You can freely define these and organize these to your liking. We have some customers that have hundreds or thousands of extractions in some cases. So it's helpful to keep them organized in a folder structure. Setting up a data extract is relatively straightforward. It's basically a three-step process. Step one is you connect to a data source, and that's always SAP. We connect always at the SAP application level. That's an important thing to keep in mind. We never connect at the database. That is to stay within certification and guidelines from SAP, but it also helps us with enforcing security, but also it gives us better access to metadata and some of the descriptive data. I can choose here between an OData and an RFC connection. Both are supported. I'm going to quickly change to an S4 RFC destination to show you some of the parameters. You typically need a host or a message server if you use load balancing, an instance number, a logon client, and the language. And then you also need to authenticate using a system user or your own user account. So this is very similar to how a user would connect to SAP GUI. And again, this is in the context of the user's permissions. Step two then is to create a data extract. Here you see the different components. You pick a connection to your SAP system, you pick a component, and then you go about configuring that specific data extract. I have a couple prepared here that I want to show you. The first one is a sales orders data extract. This one is pulling data from two tables, table VBAK and VBAP. You can add more tables here. We do support join conditions in the SAP environment. Oftentimes what you have in SAP is that the data is not located in just one table, but it's distributed across multiple tables. So having this ability to join multiple tables is very useful, and it also offers better performance when you pull out data that resides across multiple tables. So then you select the fields from each table. I can see the description here. We also support what are called conversion routines. These are often small ABAP routines that exist in the SAP system. They're primarily used for formatting purposes. And you see I'm also pulling in here data from the line item table, VBAP. And in the preview down below, you see I can get a combined data set. I can do a row count. I get just over 6,000 records. I can do a live preview. This is very performant with the use of our function module. I could filter this data set. You see the join condition here. I'm just going to leave it at that in the interest of time. Now, step three is once you have designed your data extract, you need to specify where you want to utilize the data. We support over 20 different destinations, all common data platforms, data lakes, lakehouse environments, traditional databases, flat files, as well as object stores, and also some analytics tools. So here I have an S3 bucket set up. I can authenticate using the different mechanisms here. I can choose between two different endpoint types. I can choose a bucket, and of course, I can also choose a file type. So this is all predefined, and I will now run this data extract. The tool will now go to those two tables in SAP, pull the data that matches the filters, and send the data directly to S3. So this only took 3.5 seconds about to pull that data. If I go to my S3 bucket and do a refresh here, I should see the file. Okay, there it is. I specified Parquet format. It was created just now in this location. Now, the other feature we have is, so this works really well for full data replications for large data sets. It's a performant way to replicate large data sets. But oftentimes you only want to replicate the changes because it's not feasible to replicate very large data sets over and over again, let's say on a daily basis. So for that, we have a table CDC component. You saw it in the list earlier. And what I have done here is I have used the same transactional table for sales orders. This is VBAK, the header table for sales orders. And I have, with the table CDC component, initialized this table for change tracking. Once it's initialized, change tracking will happen continuously in the SAP system. I have specified the same bucket as a destination. And now what I'm going to show you is how I will introduce a change on a sales order. Yeah, to do that, I'm going to go into a change sales order screen or transaction. So here I'm in a typical sales order, and let's say I want to change the payment terms for this sales order to something else because I'm giving this customer a little bit more time to pay. Now I can save this, and I have to go back in. Sorry. I'm going to change this to 3. Okay, so now he has 14 days. And now the changes have been saved. And these payment terms on the sales order is something that is reflected in table VBAK, which I have initialized for change tracking. And now when I'm going to switch the destination real quick to HTTP CSV so we can actually see the results in the tool. Now, when I run this change data pool, I only see one record, and that is my sales order number, 4720, with all the relevant fields, including a timestamp at the very end. This is what we track in addition to the actual data that we pull. This timestamp tells you when the change happened in SAP and what the operation was. So this allows you to do very efficient near real-time replication of changes. It's well suited for very large tables like transactional tables where you have a lot of changes, but you cannot afford to fully replicate this table every day because it would simply take too long. So both this full replication and the change data replication are critical for customers like the one we saw earlier to reduce your processing time for your data movements. Okay, so I'm going to stop here with the demo.
Christoph, a quick question. A two-parter. Is the data encrypted that's extracted from SAP, number one? And number two, between in the SAP source and the destination, is it stored in any intermediate step?
Yeah, so the data is encrypted. SAP facing, we support what is known as SNC. Secure Network Communication is a protocol by SAP that allows encryption. So that can be activated. And also outward facing to any of our destinations, we use an HTTPS channel. So the data remains secure. And no, the data is not stored anywhere in our tool. There's no database underneath our application. It's a straight pass-through from the SAP system to the S3 data bucket.
Got it. Thank you. All right.
Okay, and then I think we have one more slide.
Yep.
So I do want to give you a brief. Are you sharing?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to?
Yep. I'll go ahead. I thought I was sharing there. Let me do this again.
I want to just give you a brief glimpse of our roadmap. A couple things I want to highlight, things we're working on, and
Come on. Do we see that yet?
We have planned.
All right, can you see it now? There we go.
So without touching on all of these, just a couple that I think are especially relevant for our AWS customers. We have added support for the OData services that can be exposed natively by SAP. That was an important improvement for customers running on S/4HANA, both private cloud but also public cloud. In fact, for public cloud or Grow customers, it's one of the only ways to get to your data. So that is something that is already in the tool, and you can take advantage of that today. Similarly, we're also making investments in what are called CDS views. CDS views also play a bigger role for customers in the S4 environment. So we already have CDS view data extraction capabilities in Xtract Universal today. You can use, for example, the table extractor to pull data from CDS views, but we're expanding on that. We will add support for CDS view entities. That's coming this quarter. And next quarter, we will also support the change data capture for CDS views, very similar to what you just saw for tables. We're also working on a SaaS offering, our own cloud offering. This will be called Xtract Cloud, and it will go into private preview later this quarter. And the early capabilities in this SaaS offering will include replication from SAP, both cloud and on-premise systems, to AWS S3. And finally, over on the right here, you see the Apache Iceberg item. So we're adding support for that. For AWS customers that want to work with Amazon S3 tables, they can take advantage of this feature and then load SAP data directly into the S3 table format when it becomes available next quarter. And now I'll wrap it up with Xtract Universal. Now that you saw the capabilities of extracting data, how we land data in S3, and I'm going to turn it over to Pavel to tell us more about how you can work with that SAP data in AWS.
Perfect. Thank you, Christoph. And good morning and afternoon, everyone, from my side as well. My name is Pavel, and I'm the SAP AWS Innovation Architect based out of Vienna in Austria, and currently streaming directly from the Theobald Stuttgart office. So now that we have heard about how to effectively basically extract the data out of SAP using Xtract Universal, let's see how we can drive the business insights from the data leveraging AWS analytics services. Starting with the Amazon Q and QuickSight, SAP customers can generate insights from SAP data, for example, in the order to cash or procure to pay business process areas. This use case can also apply for other personas depending on the SAP data available. So what do our customers face within the procurement today? For example, supplier performance and compliance on trying to address on how to assess supplier reliability, quality of goods, adherence to contracts. And what do we see our customers facing within the fulfillment? For example, lack of visibility and transparency, where limited real-time insights into the order status and fulfillment, or inefficient order management with the inability to effectively manage complex order scenarios or manual and error-prone order entry and processing. With the benefits of the generative AI, you can then, of course, think of automatically generates insights from those processes mentioned as order to cash, procure to pay, record to report, and others. You can also accelerate decision-making to improve the order fulfillment and on-time delivery rate. You can also analyze and optimize, for example, the supplier spend and then the performance. Next slide, please. So the next generation of Amazon SageMaker includes virtually all the components that you need for fast SQL analytics, big data processing, search, the data preparation and integration, AI model development and training, and generative AI along with a single view into all of your enterprise data. You get a single data and AI development environment with the SageMaker Unified Studio, a lakehouse architecture that unifies access to all your data, whether it's on S3 and in Redshift, through an open Iceberg standard interface and the SaaS applications on-premises or in the clouds through the Apache Iceberg standard interface. And within the SageMaker catalog, built into the Unified Studio, you get the end-to-end governance for your data and AI workflows. Next slide, please. And in order to support different personas and users of different skill levels, the Unified Studio is a single place to access all the tools you need to get your job done, right? So whether it's the query editors or notebooks or visual editors. These tools are made consistent across services. So think one query editor for all your SQL requirements and needs, regardless of the service you are using. All the tools are integrated within the Git, so you have a single view of all the code for your end-to-end analytics and application. In addition, you can also easily weave the Unified Studio into your existing development processes. Next slide. Now, Amazon Q provides a new AI-powered dashboard authoring experience, accelerating time to build from hours to minutes. With Amazon Q and QuickSight, the business analyst can build visuals, build calculations, and refine visuals or using the natural language without involving the IT teams. And Amazon QuickSight Q enables also everyday users that they can ask the questions in the plain English about their data, where the QuickSight ML models then will interpret those questions and intend to come back with visuals to answer those questions. The Q also supports forecasting questions to understand, for example, what may happen in the future for up to 3 measures simultaneously, and also ask the typical why questions to identify the key drivers to changes in the data and quantify contributions by each of the driver. Next slide, please. And as noted previously, this incredible generative BI capability can be used to help your SAP users to get insights and make better informed decisions faster, including the key processes for order to cash, procure to pay, and record to report. And some of the examples of the visualization you can see right now here, we will see them later as well in the demo. And the order to cash or procure to pay analysts can generate dashboards. They can accelerate the analysis by easily creating calculations and even develop the shareable data stories, all with the natural language support. And we'll talk about the Q topics, which are collections of one or more data sets that represents a subject area that your business users can ask questions about. Now, before we go into the demo, we have another poll question that I would like Scott, you to ask to run for us, please.
All right. I've started the poll. The audience should see it. Just an FYI, I gave you a few more seconds. As we discovered in the first poll, you got to be pretty quick with your answers. So I've added about 15 seconds on the end of the poll. All right, overall data strategy, a little more even distribution this time. Pavel, I'll be sort of curious in your experience, since you deal with these types of questions, if this is typical or if this is something that's a little unusual in your opinion.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. So I see that most of the customers are looking to migrate to SAP BDC or Business Data Cloud. So new product of the SAP DataSphere, including with the Databricks. So yeah, pretty much.
All right.
Okay, perfect. Let me now share my screen here quickly for the demo before we wrap it up. We can see my screen. So in this case, I am in the AWS console, showing basically the Amazon QuickSight. And as I mentioned already before, we prepared one topic for the demo for the SAP procurement data, whereas connected data sets based upon the extraction that Christoph showed before, we can now raise business questions directly about the data set. Specifically in the SAP procurement, for example, I would like to see the quarterly invoice amount overview for my data. And as you can see, it's now coming back with the specific dashboard based upon the data set I provided. Additionally, it also comes with so-called the anomaly detection, where it looks for the totals and the top and low performed basically quarters. So you can see we have some spikes. The data set's a bit old, still 2023, but you can see that I can now enhance it and even add basically the forecast into that, which we will show them later in the dashboard. But you can already see what were the highest quarter that contributed and what were the overall invoice amount of that, including the invoice forecast. Now, if I even want to ask specific questions of why, for example, if I look on dataset, there was a spike in the Q1 for my invoices, I can ask the obvious question on why did invoice amount increase in Q1 2023. That will now give me 4 key drivers why the value then increased and spiked the invoices. So you can see that the material group, supplier status, and some others changed, and it provides also a quick summary that you can use directly then. And as a user, if you like the question, you can also mark it as verified, which means that's an important question. So if anyone else within your company, for example, ask for the same question, then they can basically see that it has been already verified as a data. Now, based upon that, you can as well move it to so-called dashboards that you can then publicly share. And as you can see here, these are the questions we already asked with the respective details. For example, I also added the forecast values for my purchasing and invoices and how they will be growing or sinking basically in the upcoming days, which I can then easily manipulate with the expected and the upper and lower bound, for example, for the forecast, as well as the overall supplier or even the contributors from the material groups that were the drivers for the invoices in the procurement data. Of course, the end users can then further ask detailed questions within the queue on the dashboard directly. And the good point is that they don't need to involve the ID team. So basically, they can just straight away raise their business questions. Okay, we'll stop sharing. That was all for the demo, and we'll hand it back to Scott and Christoph for the call to action slide.
All right. Thanks, Pavel. For those of you who haven't seen QuickSight and used that interactive ability to query your data, it's very cool. I suggest you have a look at it. It's a super cool way to visualize your SAP data. So quick call to action before Q&A. So you can find our listing on the AWS Marketplace, as we note there. For those of you customers out there who have consumption commitments with AWS already, yes, as an ISVA program member, any purchase cost for ISVA subscriptions count against your consumption commitment. We get that question often. Contact us for a consultation if you want to learn more about XU or our portfolio. And note that QR code on the bottom right, you can try XU for 30 days with a trial, and it does provide full functionality. There is no commitment. So we suggest that would be a great place to start. I think that's it, Christoph, unless there's something else for you to add on this.
No, I think you covered it all. That's good.
Okay, well, listen, so we do have some questions. We've got about 15 minutes here. So I think one of them is definitely XU focused. Christoph, I'll start with that one. And the first one is about availability of table CDC. Josephina, you asked it's going to be available. It is available now.
Yes. It is available. Yes, it has been available for 3+ years. So it is available. It's stable, and I would encourage you to give it a try.
Yeah. The second one is a good question. Again, we hear this a lot, and I heard that SAP is going to forbid the use of RFC. Does this restriction affect the way XU works?
Yeah. So it's a little bit more targeted than that. So SAP explicitly prohibited the use of the ODP framework or the ODP, the ODP framework over the RFC protocol. So it's a fairly narrow scenario, but it was a scenario that was used by quite a few vendors in the market. We also had an RFC component for ODP, and we still have that. However, it's one of the 12 different components that I mentioned earlier. So there's many alternatives for you to get around that restriction and stay SAP compliant, including the 2 extraction types that I showed in the demo, table CDC. We have an ABAP report extractor. You can get to ERP queries, all without being impacted by this note. In addition, if you like the idea of using ODP because it gives you access to certain data sources, like an SLT server, for instance, or maybe HANA views, you can also still do that in a compliant way by using our new OData extractor for ODP. So there's many ways to get around that. For us, there was little impact because it only impacted one of many other components.
Okay, great. Thanks, Christoph. So another good question here, and it's kind of a 2-parter as well. And I want to read the whole thing because I think it has implications, or there's an answer from both the AWS side and the Theobald side. So is the extraction technology useful for creating testing data sets, or is it more focused on supporting external analysis tooling? So that's the first question. Christoph, maybe you take that one.
I think there's many use cases for it. I mean, certainly traditional BI and analytics, reporting, dashboarding, that's a common one. But you can also test data sets with it. We see application, for instance, in migration scenarios where the IT teams or the business users are tasked with a comparison, a reconciliation between the old system and the new system. So it can also be used to extract data and then use some AWS service to alter the data, maybe obfuscate the data, and use it as a test data set. So there's many use cases. Planning, forecasting, master data management, really any time when you need near real time and access to a lot of data in your SAP system, I think our tool can be very useful.
Yeah, and thank you, Christoph. Pavel, I think this is I see you've answered in the chat there, but I think this is very relevant for AWS, and there's a lot of powerful capabilities in AWS. Maybe you can talk just a little bit about this one as well.
So this was about the
extraction technology, is it useful creating testing data sets, or is it more focused on other use cases? And if it's useful, does it support extracting subsets? And I think the answer is yes, but I think in combination with AWS, that's when it becomes really powerful.
Yeah, so basically that's how we feed the data when they're extracted with the Xtract Universal. We then connect them basically on the Redshift layer as so-called data marts. Then we can query and prepare for consumption in the QuickSight. And exactly this comes both with all the dependencies on different tables and kind of underlying data or the semantic layer.
Okay, thanks. And I want to read the sort of the sub question here as well, because I think it's relevant. Christoph, you touched on it with the joins. If useful for testing, which we believe it is, obviously, and many customers use it, does it support extracting a subset of the system that meets business data dependencies? And he's given a good example here. Example, extract all orders, but also the underlying data dependencies, such as inventory credit memos associated with, say, a specific sales region. And I think the clarification that Jim's put in here, this implies both a system copy type functionality for the underlying test system creation and an input data extraction for the test cases themselves. So I wanted to read that just so you got the full flavor of the question. It's a good one.
Yeah, That's definitely possible, right? I mean, table level access gives you really access to any table, any data in the SAP system. But we also work with views. If views sometimes span across multiple tables, you can extract from that. Sometimes customers like the idea of using ABAP reports. Maybe they have a custom report or a standard SAP report, which gives them a certain set of data that again can span across different tables or modules in some cases. So all of that is available to you in the tool. A little bit of knowledge on the SAP source objects helps. We tried to make this very easy for you to browse and select certain tables. But then you can also be very specific in what you're pulling through the use of filters, or what we call the where clause on the table extractor. So that's available, and I don't see why that wouldn't work in your scenario.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think that wraps up, that covers all the questions that I see. Let me just run through the various tabs here. Jim, okay, great. Thanks again. As we said, both the three of us and via the links that we've provided in the web, we are certainly available for further questions. But yeah, it's a good question and covers a lot of the scenarios and many of the use cases that we certainly see in XU. But I think from an AWS perspective, as you think about all the tools available to view and analyze your data, those same capabilities exist there. So I think that's it for questions. Before I wrap things up, Pavel, if there's anything else you'd like to add, or that you've seen you want to point out, Christoph, same for you. I'll open it up for you guys, and I'll continue to monitor here in case any questions come in before we wrap.
I would just wrap it up. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to contact us or to ask for immersion day or any additional workshop that we can run for you and show you the art of the possible.
Same for me. Thanks for attending. Thanks for listening, and give it a try. It's really easy to deploy, quick to set up, and we're here to guide you through the process.
Okay, thanks guys to all the attendees. Again, on behalf of Theobald and AWS, thank you for attending. For those of you who registered and those of you who weren't able to attend, if you have colleagues, you will receive an email and a link to the recording, so you can look at the recording again and the spreadsheet, and the PowerPoint presentation. And again, the QR code on there, scan it for a free trial if you want to have a look at XU. Let me just run through quick again here, see if there's anything else. It looks like we're good. Okay, well, thank you again for attending, everyone, and have a good rest of the day, good rest of the morning, wherever you are in the world. And thanks for your attention and attendance.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.